the Word. The word for vision used in 1 Samuel also serves as the title for some prophetic books. The opening line, Isaiah, Nahum, and Obadiah all begin as the vision of the prophet. The visions of the prophets are familiar to readers of the Bible. In the visions, prophets sometimes see things. Could be a boiling pot in the case of Jeremiah, or a field of dry bones in the case of Ezekiel. But they also always hear a message. Ko amar Yahweh, thus saith Yahweh, or some equivalent formula. More curious is the phrase, the word which he saw, or the oracle which he saw. How does one see spoken words or oracles? Is this prophetic shorthand for vision and message? Consider visionaries. Consider a visionary from the time of the church in France being invaded by England, having experiences of God. Is her brain inventing these things? Is she making it all up as she goes along? How much of the vision is Joan of Arc, the girl, and how much is the living God? And how would you be certain? Where does the soundtrack come from? When she enters the church and sees the light coming through the stained glass picture of St. Michael the Archangel, does she imagine St. Michael the Archangel standing before her? Is she making that up in her head? Or is St. Michael the Archangel actually standing before her? How much of this is signs, and how much of this is an ink blot test? Modern people are obsessed with these kinds of things. When Joan of Arc sees Jesus, the child, does she imagine him being French? Does she imagine the older Prince Jesus, King Jesus, being a French king? What is really going on in her vision experiences? Psychological anthropologists who have investigated worldwide evidence concerning visions and other alternate states of consciousness point out that these experiences have no soundtrack. It is the visionary who provides the soundtrack that reflects the visionary's culture. Therefore, the prophets who saw visions, whether a boiling pot or bones or the constellation throne in the sky vault, also provided a suitable soundtrack that interpreted what they had seen. When we say that the human being provides the soundtrack to the vision experiences, that's not the same thing as saying that the visionary is just making it all up in his or her head. Since God is the creator of the human being, since God did all this hard wiring through evolution, God can work with this. God is always present, never the absent one. But we have to admit that sometimes God works with those who have suffered bad days. And after all of us have suffered bad days, have we not? And bad days color things. We see in the Bible God commanding horrors, slavery, genocidal warfare, rape. God is in the human being, my friends. God is in, therefore, the genocidal nastiness, sure, but not as the one commanding it, orchestrating it, micromanaging it. The bad day is in there also, coloring things. God is not the master engineer or high general sitting up in headquarters somewhere on top of the sky, punching into a cosmic skyboard all the marching orders for everyone everywhere. God is not a cosmic micromanager or a puppeteer. But holy and absolute mystery, called God, did hardwire us human beings through evolution to communicate with God this way. He gave us our nervous systems. Provided there isn't serious tragedy and trauma and terrible wounds to color things, it ought to work very nice. But we need to remember that our image of God creates us, and our image of us distorts God. We were made for these experiences, however, as modern research into cognitive neuroscience and cultural anthropology is showing us. Visions don't come with soundtracks, but the soundtrack, of course, was God-breathed. It was inspired by God. And the most important part of that word inspired is the prefix in. It was indeed God speaking to the prophet. The two elements, divine and human, are so inextricably bound up in the experience of the visionary that it makes perfect sense to say that he saw the word, or that he saw the oracle of the Lord. Dictionaries customarily list the passages that we just mentioned, the word that he saw, the oracle that he saw, as instances of seeing as in an ecstatic state. This, of course, is quite correct from our modern enlightened point of view. It very likely describes in modern terms quite correctly what the ancients experienced in these passages. But we have to ask, is this fair? Is this entirely fair to our ancient Mediterranean ancestors in the faith? They do not seem to have distinguished the variety of meanings of ecstasy identified in our English dictionaries. For example, one Hebrew dictionary describes the scene in which Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel saw God and ate and drank in his presence as a theophany. How does this theophany differ from encountering God, or seeing God face to face at the pilgrimage to the temple, or seeing the word, or seeing an oracle in an ecstatic state? Remember, all these events are really experiences in altered states of consciousness. Many scholars now see the need for rewriting dictionaries along the lines of semantic domains, such as Greek-English Lexicon of the New Testament based on semantic domains, an excellent book. Nearly all dictionaries reflect the social system of the lexicographer rather than the social system of the people who spoke that ancient language. Hence, we need a new kind of dictionary like this one. The Greek word translated ecstasy, ekstasis, occurs 29 times in the Greek Bible and 7 times in the New Testament. Paul fell into an ekstasis, a trance, in Acts, in which he received the directive from God dictating an immediate course of action: flee Jerusalem. Peter had an ekstasis, a dream, that gave him new instruction from God concerning appropriate foods to eat. These instances correspond to the general purpose of such experiences: to give new information, new insight, a new way of looking at things, or offer advice for a course of action. The other instances of ekstasis are translated amazement, reaction to healings in the Synoptic Gospels and the book of Acts, and to the discovery of the empty tomb and the young man's message about Jesus in the Gospel called Mark. Yet it is also possible that the ancients considered all these events, trances and healings, as amazing. Felicitas Goodman, the anthropologist who, together with Erica Bourguignon, conducted most of the pioneering research on altered states of consciousness, grew up in the Hungarian region of Western Romania in a Lutheran setting. Throughout her youth, she regularly experienced altered states of consciousness without smoking anything, drinking anything, or taking anything dubious. At her confirmation, Felicitas was advised to put away such childish things and behave now like an adult. When one of her friends entered the convent, Felicitas asked the same question of her that the old pagan priest had asked of the 5th century monks. Do all these religious experiences and disciplines help you to see your God? Felicitas's friend sadly gave her the same answer: no. As we will see later, Felicitas Goodman's research work on body postures showed that by assuming certain body postures, a human being can experience visions and other altered states of consciousness, such as sky journeys. Once after context group scholar Dr. John Pilch had given a talk on this very subject, a woman in the audience approached him. She told him, "It's funny what you're saying. When I was a young girl, between 4 and 6 years old, I levitated. I did it by leaning forward, and at a certain point, it happened. If I leaned too far, I fell over. I played this levitation game many times." "You didn't do this after that age, when you were older than 6? asked Dr. Pilch. "No," replied the woman. "Why not?" he asked her. "Because my mother told me it was silly," came her sad reply. And that's how it is, ladies and gentlemen. Our parents are always doing that to us, aren't they? Adults will always straighten you out and tell you to be a rational human being and grow up. It seems that the Johannine Jesus group of adults regularly experienced God and the risen Jesus in alternate states of consciousness experiences. That was the point and purpose of the liturgical gatherings, folks. When the author we call John writes, "No one has ever seen God," he apparently is denying claims of those outside his circle, the Johannine Jesus group, to have had that privilege. The Johannine Jesus group regularly and routinely experienced the risen Jesus in their worship more than any other group. All the time, Jesus was present, as he should be in our worship. The Johannine community retained a tradition we would do well to explore and restore.